Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Firstly, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We come to another session of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, and we got to the point where Zulaykha, and some say that she has a different name, Rahil, or Zulaykha, or somehow pronounced Zalikha. But Zulaykha, she's the mistress, or the person who's in this house. It's her house, her husband's outside, she's locked all the doors. They say in some tafsir that there's 7 different doors. She's got Yusuf alayhi salatu salam in the center of the building, and she's about to make her move towards him. Now, how old is Yusuf alayhi salam at this moment? There are different aqwal, there are different tafsirs. Some have said that he was much older, say between 30 to 40, but that is actually if you actually look at the words used later on in the surah. So for example, in surah 12, ayah number 30, Allah Azza wa Jal has made a reference towards him as being a fata. Now, fata in Arabic is a young boy, as in a person who's a person who's possibly in his youth, definitely gone above his age of puberty, but would have probably been about 17 years old, could be up to 20 years old, could be even in his early 20s. So he's definitely within his age range of being a young, mature individual or a man. And Yusuf alayhi salatu salam is extremely handsome, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said, this was on the night when he went towards Mi'raj. He said, according to one hadith, that Yusuf alayhi salam has been given half of the entire creation's beauty. So if you took the whole creation together and you put all the beauty on one side, and you took the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salatu salam on another side, then his beauty alone would match the creation's beauty. Okay, so that's how beautiful Allah Azza wa Jalla made him. Now you can imagine this woman being so noble she was, that there's an obvious reason that she falls for this man. He is extremely handsome, extremely handsome. And up until this point, the women of the town or the city haven't even seen him. So he's like a hidden pearl in this palace, and he's been fed and educated and getting all the best things that his master or the minister of Egypt is giving him, who's the owner of this house. And she's basically got him in the middle, and by closing all the doors, she says to him in the end, she comes to him and says, Hay talak, come towards me. Come as in, let's do the act of what a man and wife would do. Now, Yusuf alayhi salam, of course, he's never been married at this time. It's not his mahram, it's not his wife, it's not anyone that he would have that kind of relationship or anything with. And Yusuf alayhi salam is the son of a prophet, alayhi salatu salam. Now his first words that he says is Ma'adallah, and this is where we sort of got up to last week. Ma'adallah, he said, I seek refuge in Allah. Why? Because he knew from the scriptures that they had, and from what Yaqub alayhi salam had. And where was this all coming from? Well, whatever Ibrahim alayhi salam left, because Ibrahim alayhi salam had scriptures from Allah Azza wa Jal, which he left with Ishaq alayhi salam, a prophet, and then with Yaqub alayhi salam, his father, or the father of Yusuf alayhi salam. So it was very clear that zina is haram. And Yusuf alayhi salam straight away said, Ma'adallah, I seek Allah's protection. Now, subhanallah, such great taqwa and such great consciousness of Allah that his first call is Allah. Now there's a big lesson in this. The lesson here is a lot of the times when we're in trouble, we sometimes, or many a times, we refer, or our head goes to the immediate material thing that might save us. So let me give an example. If a person has got a pain in the body, he'll straight away think, it's all right, it's kind of all right, I'll just massage it or rub it, whatever. Next thing, if he gets any deeper, he'll think, well, I can go to the GP. So the next call of reference, straight away he might think, well, go to the GP. If the GP says, I'm going to refer you on, doctor says, I'm going to refer you on, so he gets referred on. And he says, don't worry, there's a hospital, they'll give me an x-ray, whatever, it should be all right. And then the next thing is, well, they found something in his heart or something, so he'll think, well, there's medication, they're going to put me on medication, I'll take that and probably get it all sorted out. So there's that. And if it gets any worse, then it's like, okay, I'll go to a specialist, I'll go to a special hospital that specializes in this, and then I'll get something from that. And if nothing sort of is going to work, most people by then, their only point and call of reference is Allah by then. Now yes, the person would have made a reference of Allah beforehand, yes, we all know that. But to make the only point of reference Allah Azza wa Jal, that is what Allah is teaching us here. That He's in the middle. Who is He? Well, He's known to be a slave. He's not doing any slavery work at this moment, but He's there as a slave, one. Second is, if He says no or does something at this moment, He could be in serious trouble because she has got great power in this city. She's the wife of the minister, and she's got a hand in the affairs because she's going to tell her husband what to do. Her husband is in charge of the police force, and if she wants to say, well, and it's probably a ministry of, could be defense or whatever it is, but she could tell her husband that, do something about this, and he's going to be in serious trouble. So having all of this in front of him, instead of saying, what are you saying? Think about what you're saying. What are you doing? No, none of that. He says straight away, Ma'adallah. I want Allah to protect me. That's my first call. That's my only call. That's my full trust that Allah should save me at this moment. And then he moves on to the second thing he says. He says, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwai. And he appeals to her conscience, but in a different way. First, obviously, he talked about Allah. And if she's got any taqwa inside her, she's going to also say, the man's taking Allah's name, I better not do what I'm doing. But he moved on to the second thing, which is, subhanAllah, it's very clever of Yusuf alayhi salam to do this. When you're in such a situation, you want to appeal to a person's awareness, their conscience, the guilty conscience. You want to get to that. You want to make them feel bad about what they're doing. Now, if she can't see the akhirah, if she can't see that Allah's going to get her back on the Day of Judgment, as in He's going to punish her on the Day of Judgment, if that's not in her mind at this moment, there's got to be something in the world I can use that she's going to have a guilty conscience of, and because of that she will stop. So what did Yusuf alayhi salam do? He said, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwai. Your husband, who is the house lord, or the one who looks after me. So he used the word Rabbi, but meaning that, you have like a landlord. We say in English, you can have a landlord. Now, landlord, Lord you normally reserve for who? For Allah, Lord, He's our Lord. But in Arabic and in English and in other languages, you can have that word used for others in a context. So just like you can say a landlord, which means he is a lord of the house. He's an owner of the house. That's all that it means. Okay, it doesn't mean that he's now a god. The same way Yusuf alayhi salam is saying that he's my Lord, meaning your husband is the Lord of looking after my affairs, because I'm supposed to be a slave and your husband owns me. But your husband is the one that has been excellent towards my stay in this place. Now again, just on that word Lord, what I want to say, sometimes you have in the Indian subcontinent, people say, Maulana someone. So they might say Maulana, Zubair, They might say Maulana, Hussein or something. And there are certain people who object to that. They say Maulana is a word that you're supposed to use for Allah only. Allah is our Mawla. Ni'mal Mawla wa ni'mal Nasir. Allah said, Allah has referred to Himself for us to use Him as a Mawla. Now, there's nothing wrong in calling somebody a Maulana, because the way Rabb here can also be used for a human being, the same way Mawla can be used for a human being. Right? There are certain words that are ascribed to Allah that cannot be used for anybody else. But there are certain words that you can use for others. Like for example, Rahman, the most merciful and gracious in terms of, all around merciful. That only can be used for Allah. But if you say that man, innahu rajulun, if you say that man is someone who's Rahim, he's a person who's got mercy, yeah, he's got mercy, or you kind of attribute that. Or Kareem, for example, he's generous. Allah's name is Kareem, but you can be generous as well. Allah is the most generous, but you can refer to a person and say, well, he's Kareem, innahu Kareem, he is generous. It doesn't mean that you've taken Allah's name and you just given it to a human being. So there are certain names you can give to a human being, another human being, like Kareem and so on. But Rahman and so on, you can't give it to others. These are specific for Allah. So Rabb is one of those words you can give to others, and Mawla is one of those words that can be given to others. Anyway, getting back to the surah itself, Innahu Rabbi ahsana mathwa. Your husband has been excellent towards my stay here. Meaning that you're asking me to commit zina with you. Don't you think about your own husband? Your husband's such a nice person. Why would you want to do this to your husband? As in his betrayal. How could you do this? And how could you want me? Okay, forget it. Maybe you're not even thinking about your husband at this time because all your eyes are on me. Yeah? You can't think about your husband. Maybe your husband's now second hand because I'm around. Right? If you've got your eyes on me at this moment, how can I do this when I am indebted to your husband for the many favors he's given me? Do you really think a man like me should lower himself, stoop low and say, you know what, the man can give me all these favors and I'm going to do something to his wife like this? La ilaha illallah. And the thing is, what we learn from here also is, sometimes the close ones you've got to yourselves that are close to you, to do something to them of haram is worse than the ones that are distant. They're both haram. Don't try and go away today and say, that's fine. If I get, I'm not going to do it to my close ones, I'm just going to do to the ones that are far, I'm not asking you to make that dalil. What I'm trying to say from here is, in a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, Allah Azza wa Jal will not even look at certain people on the Day of Judgment. Meaning that He won't look at them with the eyes of mercy. He will not even speak to them. Meaning that He will not speak to them with the words of mercy. And one of them, he said, is the man who fornicates or commits adultery with the wife of his neighbor. The wife of his neighbor. Now, why is it so severe to commit adultery with the wife of your neighbor? I mean, adultery is adultery, right? It's haram, it's bad anyway. Why is Allah's Messenger saying that it's quite severe to do this? More severe than a normal kind of adultery, or more severe than other haram acts? It's because you're close to your neighbor. Your neighbor has a right over you. You have a right over your neighbor. You're so close, you've got this trust, you've got this relationship, you've got good things that are going to go around with you, between you and your neighbor. And just because your neighbor's close to you and your neighbor goes off and you see his wife, you want to just go there and do what you want? That's low. The same way as if you've got someone in your own house, a niece or a niece for a man, I'm saying, a nephew for a woman, I'm saying. Now this is your blood or someone that is related to you. You can't do anything to them of incest, or even if he was to touch them in a way that is inappropriate, it's worse. Why? Because these are the most closest to you and you were entrusted with them. So anyway, What we learn from this is that Yusuf is appealing to her and saying, how could you even think that I'm going to go down this line? And then he adds on, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. The third statement he makes, that those who commit oppression do not become successful. Meaning that if I was to now sleep with you, then that is a huge and major sin. That sin is that I have oppressed myself, and I would have oppressed your husband by doing that, and you're going to be oppressing your husband, and you're going to be oppressing yourself. And such people will never succeed. Meaning that what will happen eventually is one day or another, things will get, ugly. Now this is the nature of sins, guys. This is the nature of sins. Anyone who goes towards sins, one day or another, they're going to come across something that is going to be, oh my God, oh no, what have I done? Either the addiction is going to kill them, or they're going to get caught, or they're going to feel, such remorse later on, and they're going to feel so bad inside. Whatever happens, you look at any nature of any sin, eventually this, when the sin gets quite, like for example, imagine a man and a woman secretly in the house, they're doing what they want. How far are they going to get? Eventually, somebody will find out. When that person finds out, imagine the husband was to find out that this is happening in his house. Imagine, I'm just saying, this did not happen, but I'm saying, imagine. The husband would throw Yusuf out. The husband would have, got the woman and probably, divorced her or beat her up, whatever else he would have done. Eventually, you cannot move ahead with sin and enjoy life and be successful in life. You can't do that. And that is what he's saying, that look, Zulaykha, look at the future. First is, if you're not going to be thinking of Allah right now, okay, think about your husband. That's number two. If you're not going to be thinking about your husband, look, think about me. How am I supposed to do this? Again, regarding your husband, he's been so good. And number three is, you really think that you're going to commit a major sin and you're going to be successful in life, and you think I'm going to be successful in life? So what Yusuf did overall is, he not only made her think, but he started to make her think about the future. To stop anyone from sinning, you have to use one of these things. You have to get them to say, look, Allah, like for example, now most people, if you're going to give them da'wah, you need to talk about Allah. If not, talk about, a guilty conscience they might have with something around them. If not, talk about their future and say, look, there are consequences of what you're going to do in the dunya and in the akhirah. As for the dunya, Allah will not make you successful. As for the akhirah, forget it. There's no way out. So anyway, he's appealing to her. Now, one beautiful thing is, when she came for him and she said, hey talak, come towards me, he could have at that moment run away. He could have thought, forget this, I'm dying for the door. He could have done that, but he didn't. Why not? Because he thought that he wanted to reason with her. The reasoning with her might stop her from her action. And whenever we're in a situation where there's evil, it's always good to reason and communicate with people, because if you can get into the mind, see, the body is only doing something, like the hands and the feet only move because the heart and the mind are thinking a certain way. If you can get to the heart and the mind, you control the hands, you control the feet, you control the body. That's the secret. A lot of people think that, if I just tell him it's haram, akhi, it's haram, don't do it. Allah said no, there's Jahannam. No, you just what? You just told him it's haram, that's it, okay, just don't do it, stop your hands. You're trying to get the man to control his hands by just controlling his hands. That's a lesser way of getting a man to stop committing a sin. A better one is that you explain to him, you give him reasons why not, why he shouldn't do this act. And that is a way, when he takes that all in, he's more likely to say, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah, you're right. It's like saying, if we were in a dark room, and me and you are inside there, and I'm saying, look, listen man, I'm getting out of here right now. And you saying, well, I'm staying in here. So I'm getting out of here right now, there's a snake in here. Now imagine there's a snake inside there, yeah? And I know there's a snake inside there, but you can't see no snake inside there. You say, what are you talking about, there's a snake inside here? Stay here with me. So now I'm getting out of here right now, man. I'm getting out of here. There's a snake inside here. Now you're going to say, you crazy or something? A snake inside here? You want me to just, well, leave then. Leave. I'll stay here. Now you're conversing about something which he's not convinced of. You know, the easiest thing to do is open the curtains. Open the curtains, let the light in. If he sees the snake, you think he needs to be convinced? You think he needs to be convinced? He sees the snake, he's going to run. He don't need no conviction. So anyway, what we're saying here is that to reason, to give, not to allow the thing to settle in the heart is a very, very good way of stopping someone sinning. Now, let's move on. The Quran in Surah 12, Ayah 24 says, and this is one of those places of tafsir where it needs some explanation. It says, وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ. She definitely made her intention to grab hold of Yusuf alayhi salam and commit her act. And then it says, وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَرَّأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. He had some form of inclination, had he not seen the evidence or the sort of irrefutable argument of his Lord. If he did not see the conclusive argument and judgment in front of him, he would have possibly had inclination. Now what does that mean? That means that Zulaykha was definitely fanatic for Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam, he's a human at the end of the day. Though he's a prophet, he's a human. Now let's understand this. We're not saying that Yusuf alayhi salam committed a sin, A. We're not even saying that Yusuf alayhi salam had the same thoughts as Zulaykha. No way. No way we're saying that. So what are we saying? Let me give you an example to explain this. You're fasting on a hot day. It's a hot day, you're fasting. Imagine, summer's coming again, and we're all fasting in the summer. Last year we fasted in the summer. Now on a hot day, when it's 6 or 7 in the evening, we normally break our fast about 9 something, right? 6, 7 in the evening is hot, or even at 3 o'clock in the daytime might be hot. Are you telling me you're not going to be thirsty? Are you going to be thirsty, yes or no? Yes, you're saying yes, I'm saying yes, you're going to be thirsty. But are you going to be thirsty in the sense that you're going to, look at that water, the jug of water, say, shh, whew, whew, I want to drink. Are you going to be in the sense that you're going to be looking at water thinking, man, I want to break this fast. I want to break this fast, but I want to break this fast. Are you going to be in that? Are you in that mood, yes or no? No. You're going to be thirsty, yes. But thirsty means, straight away you say, what time is it? Yeah, okay. 9 something is iftar. I'll wait till iftar. That's what goes through your head, yes or no? Regardless of, doesn't matter, despite any amount of thirst you've got, you're not going to break the fast. You don't even have an intention of breaking your fast because there's loads of water around you. Cold water, whatever it is, it's a hot day. You're not going to do that. But you are thirsty and you do have a small temptation towards quenching your thirst. So what happens here is that Yusuf alayhi salatu salam, in his human body, the natural instinct of any human being is, when you've got a beautiful woman and she's all alone with you and you're at that age and nobody's there, then there's, you can have, just like you might be just naturally thirsty, you can have a natural desire or inclination there. But just like you've got thirst there, but you're not even thinking of breaking the fast, you're not even thinking of drinking the water, the same way Yusuf alayhi salam had that inside him, but there's no way he's even thinking of going anywhere near that woman for anything of that reason. That's what it means. So she's got an inclination towards him. And what's that inclination? That inclination is a serious one. That's why Allah added the word laqad before it. Means that she was determined to fulfill her desires. And before his word hamma biha, before that, Allah does not use the word qad or laqad. Meaning that he has something which is a natural inclination or desire as any human being would have, but there's no way he would act or even be that kind of inclined the way she is inclined. And then he adds on, لَوْلَا أَرَّأَ بُرْهَانَ رَبِّي. Had he not seen the evidence of his Lord. What does that mean? That means had he not had the education that zina is haram, number one. Had he not seen the evidence that her husband has been good to me, there is no way I can do this. 2. Number 3, had he not seen the evidence that from the scriptures, that what is received from Ibrahim a.s. down is that whoever commits zina is going to be in a bad situation in the future, they cannot be successful. Had he not seen all of this, or had he not had this in his mind, perhaps he would have been inclined towards that. Meaning that a person who has, like what this shows, there's a big lesson here. Guys, we need to have knowledge. Those of us who have knowledge, the knowledge is a mechanism to save a person from the wrong type of action. Knowledge is needed. All this knowledge he had, knowledge of the scripture, knowledge of the of a human being and her husband relationship, of what we are in a society, knowledge of the future. If he didn't have that, then perhaps he would have gone towards that. The lesson here is, guys, let's read these books, Islamic books out there. Let's watch these lectures and so on. Let's educate ourselves. You don't know what day, what knowledge will prompt you to stay away from the sin.